this apparent second attempt on the life of Donald Trump in the last 2 months is of concern, isn't it? It's led to questions about the safety of US presidential candidates. I mean, you only have to look at the high intensity security around a sitting president, and arguably a vice president as well. But, we know that anyone who's been in power in the United States, been the president of the United States or indeed the prime minister of the UK, they have ongoing lifetime security of one form or another. But the first attempt revealed weaknesses in Donald Trump's protection for sure. And this second attempt inevitably raises more questions. President Joe Biden has briefly spoken to reporters this morning about it since for the first time since this apparent second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. He says the Secret Service needs more help. He told reporters he hadn't yet received a full report of the yesterday's incident, and noted he was thankful that Donald Trump was okay. Keir Starmer, for his part, said very emphatically, violence or language promoting violence has no place in politics at all. Let's talk to Barry Donadio, former US Secret Service agent under the Bush and Obama administrations, joining us from Maryland in the US. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Would you agree with the sitting president, Joe Biden, that the Secret Service needs, I presume when he says help, he means resources?
I would say they could always use more people, more resources. It's not a large organization. Mostly when they're handling presidential security and they're overseas or at an event like in Pennsylvania, they draw heavily on local police forces. I imagine state, county, city police would be quite a large percentage of the overall security. The inner security of the president or the presidential candidates would be handled by the Secret Service. So if it were up to me, I'd always want so many resources, and better to have too many than too little. So that's how a Secret Service man would think. But, there's time, money, budgeting, and resources, and it's not infinite.
We saw in the first attempt on Donald Trump's life what appeared to be a very slack security around that roof space where the shooter was, and people saying for some considerable time, there's a guy here with a gun, and, do something. And police didn't quite act, well, they clearly didn't act quickly enough by the looks of things. The details on this story still emerging, but what's your reading of this latest one?
Well, the latest one is, it appears they added some assets since the last assassination attempt. Those assets, I don't know exactly what unit or which group of agents or which specialty caught the assailant and encountered him, but I can imagine it was an advanced crew, maybe doing some kind of a search of the wood line. I'm not certain at this time, but they did encounter a man with a gun, and it pretty much probably went down just like this. They saw him. They probably didn't even have time to even go on their radios. They probably drew their weapons. They told him to drop the gun. And when he didn't, he opened fire. And how do I know that? Because that's what I would have done. So right after shots were fired, I'm sure somebody got on the radio, or the team that was with Donald Trump probably heard the commotion, because it was about 400 to 500 yards away. And they probably either sheltered him in place or got him to an armored vehicle and got him away.
The suspect, who is expected to appear in court in the coming hours, I mean, my understanding from the statement that was given yesterday is that he did for a time manage to get away. Somebody who saw him was able to photograph his vehicle. Is that what you're hearing as well? And then he was quickly apprehended by the police.
That is what we're hearing. This is great old-fashioned police work, right at hand, pays off. If you see something suspicious, even in any situation, take a picture, get a license plate number, call the police, please, because this really won the day. At the end of the day, if this citizen didn't do what he did, we might still be looking for this guy. Yeah. We might not have any clue what happened. And that would have bred even more conspiracy theories than this whole event may or may not breed. But If he was still at large, that would be a big issue for today.
The individual in question, Ryan Wesley Routh or Ruth, who's 58, he has previously tried to recruit foreign fighters to join Ukraine's war effort and has been to Kyiv himself as well. So it sounds like, I mean, this will presumably come out in the fullness of time, but it sounds like he's a sort of one-man militia in his mind.
I've looked at some pictures of him. I've seen some information about him. He is a peculiar individual, not your regular run-of-the-mill, husband or dad. So I wish he would have thought better about what he did, because now he failed in his mission. He's going to pay a heavy price for that, and for what? So I say to anybody watching, if you have thoughts of doing something like this, please don't, because it was senseless. And this man's going to spend a very long time in jail for nothing, something that could have been solved maybe with dialogue or diplomacy. I did not hear that he was in Ukraine. I only had heard that he was trying to recruit people to go. So that's yet another interesting piece of information.
Yeah. What struck me as strange is the first attempted assassination a couple of months ago. I mean, we must remember in that a man was killed in the bleachers, in the seating, and the shooter himself, a young man, was killed. So that was a deeply serious incident, and thankfully Donald Trump was not killed. I mean, briefly, slightly injured but not killed, but incredibly serious. And yet, after the initial shock and attention, and he's a showman, so he got a bit of attention out of it as well, that subsided very quickly, possibly perhaps because Kamala Harris then entered the fray as the candidate, and the whole dynamic changed dramatically. But I've been struck by how quickly that became almost an old story, and even by the muted response to this one, because these are whatever you think of Donald Trump, this is a presidential candidate, a former president, being shot at or attempts to shoot at him twice in 2 months. I mean, it's shocking.
You're bringing up an extremely important point. No matter whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, okay, everybody needs to be concerned. When I'm in that Secret Service role, okay, I could care less about politics. My job is to protect the president or the presidential candidate, and I would do everything, including sacrifice my life, to do that. That's my integrity. And why do we do that? We love our country, we love our people, and we're not going to let our integrity fall short.
Well, but it's good to hear you speak. I mean, it's impressive to hear you speak like that more than anything. But even though, as you rightly say, you are focusing on the safety of that person, whatever his or her politics, that person is possibly about to inhabit sort of what America is. Whether you like them or don't like them, what you're actually protecting is democracy. We don't solve our problems and our disagreements by shooting people dead. We solve them and live and die by them, as in politically live and die by them with the vote. That's what you're protecting, isn't it?
You are 100% correct in every word that you said. We are protecting the office of the president. Doesn't matter who is in it. It's the office. And attached to that is the democracy of the United States. It's extremely important that they proceed forward very delicately. They need to do whatever the government itself or the Secret Service, they need to do anything they can to ensure the safety of all of these candidates equally. And if it were up to me, if I was at a table of leaders, I would suggest all three of them get the same exact presidential protection. It's not all the same level of protection for a candidate than it would be for a former president. There's some differences.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
it should all be the same.
At this point, stakes are so high right now.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Barry. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. Barry Donadio, former US Secret Service agent under the Bush and Obama administrations.